Thought Bubble Audio.
Look, up in the sky.
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Welcome to Beer with Geeks with Tim and Frank.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
I am Iron Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A couple of guys with a couple of beers and a whole lot of pop culture nostalgia.
Make it so, number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
Named the dog Indiana.
Life finds a way.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now sit back and crack open a cold one, because it's time for Beer with Geeks.
It comes in paints.
Shaken, not stirred.
Great Scott!
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
Hi, and welcome to Beer with Geeks, where two geeks geek out with beer. I'm Tim, and with me, as always, my man who loves to fulfill his glorious purpose. It's Frank. How are you today?
I'm doing good. I remain.
You are he who thou shalt not remain here in this podcast realm. Something dark side, something complete.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. Frank, how are you today, and what are you drinking?
I'm doing all right. I'm drinking a new discovery for me. I just tried this for the first time last night. I have had beers before from.
You had beer before. Good for you.
I have, yes. On this program, I have shared beers from the
Marlon Brando.
Yes,
on the planet Krypton, we have programs.
It's gonna be a silly one, huh?
I guess so.
I have on this program before talked about the Concord Craft Brewing Company, and this is their Apple Crisp Porter, which I felt was good for Thanksgiving week.
Yep, absolutely.
It's it is a porter that tastes like an apple crisp. They say that we designed this to spin in our favorite seasonal treat, and they've added apples, oats, and spices to their porter, and it is a delicious. It's got a really nice mouthfeel, and a nice little like apple sweetness, but not like overbearing. It's really, really nice. It's still like a porter, but like, ooh, it's an apple porter.
That sounds awesome. Sounds really good.
Really balanced, really nice.
Very good. I do not have a Thanksgiving beer necessarily. Especially
you have a chaos beer?
Chaos beer. I have Shipyard Pumpkin in my fridge, and I feel like I probably should have had
sure
that for
pumpkin
Thanksgiving,
pie,
but instead I went for a Festbier from
nice.
Yes, from the Brewery and Tap Room in Waverly Oaks, Waltham, Massachusetts.
Ooh.
Celebrate mighty moments. Yeah, okay, I will. Okay. Mighty Squirrel. This is a Mighty Squirrel beer.
Good old Mighty Squirrel.
Mighty Squirrel. He's a good one, yeah. It's just their Festbier. It's good.
Love it.
Yeah, it's actually,
nice.
It's really good. I've had a few Mighty Squirrels in my fridge before, which without context makes no sense. But this is the Festbier is excellent. So I'm happy that I am partaking in said Festbier.
Love it.
Now, Frank, I did something that I never thought I could do and watch 6 episodes of television in 1 week. Can you imagine that? I did.
Wow.
I know.
How did it feel to make such an achievement?
Honestly, it felt good. It felt really good because, I thought that part of me was dead for a while. so it just feels really good that I'm actually alive and capable of watching TV that I want to watch and actually completing something. Thank God it was only 6 episodes.
How did you manage that with a family?
I watched each episode in parts. So I had episodes for episodes.
Got it.
I guess I will watch 10 minutes while I fold laundry, and I will catch the next 10 minutes when I do this or whatever.
It's honestly even more impressive that you got through 6 episodes in a week that way, in just, in chunks like that. Like it's very impressive that you had the that you stuck with it that much to be like, I'm finishing it this week. That's good for you.
Thank you.
Just
10
minutes here and there where you can. Love it.
Yeah. Well, that thing that we're kind of dancing around and that we watched, but we both watched Loki season 2, a little behind the Miss Minutes, but
yes.
but we made it. And so we're here to talk about Loki season 2 on Disney Plus. Frank, non-spoiler review, then spoiler review. I freaking love this. I wasn't super up on the first season, and I thought this was amazing.
Mm.
You go.
I remember the first season very fondly and really, really liking it. I'd actually be interested to go back and listen to our review of season 1 again. I always love doing that. But I wanted to wait till we talked about it here, so as not to self-influence myself. But I remember really, really, really loving season 1, and I felt like season 2 was a little bit slower to start, but in the end, I really, really, really enjoyed it.
Yes, I would agree with that. Absolutely. I should say I wasn't totally up on season 1. I really enjoyed season 1, but when season 2 was coming out, I was like, do I really want to revisit that? That's
gotcha. Yeah. Is this worth my time? Kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, because I most of the Marvel stuff that has come out has been like worth my time in passing, but not worth my attention. Which is
okay.
I would say two different things, but after the first episode, of season 2, I was like, oh no, this is worth my attention.
Totally,
yeah, absolutely. I forgot how good the dynamic between all the characters are, how fun the TVA space is aesthetically, the production design of the show, costume design, and even just the I actually even forgot how good Tom Hiddleston is.
Mm.
Sometimes you remember the bigger bits, of all the characters that, everybody is, but I forgot how good he is at nuance in a character that is arguably quite larger than life. And so I just really enjoyed the performance. More, I think, than anything else. So yeah, so it was great. I don't want to say is Marvel out of its out of its slump or whatever. Probably not. But this at least shows me that they still have the goods.
Yeah, you really do feel the continuity, and I don't mean in terms of story continuity, but you feel the continuity of the vibes from season 1. Like it feels like the second part of this story. It feels like when it feels like a good sequel that was telling the second part of a already planned out story. It's like when they've already sort of written chapters 1 and 2 of this story, and it's sort of like, all right, well, we'll make chapter 2 if the first one goes over well, right? And that's how this felt. Like, okay, it's very much conceived as part of the whole story. Whether it was or not, I don't know, but it felt like it, and that's the
success.
If it's not, I'm very impressed they made it feel like it.
Yep, I agree. Starting with the pilot of season 1, leading to the very end of season 2, it seemed like there was actually quite a clear progression of character arc and narrative for Loki, and in some ways some of these other characters too. It's just slow to learn about them through the mystery that is the show, so you don't see the whole picture.
But Renslayer, you get she gets when you look at her story sort of as we from a few feet back, you take a step back and look at it now that we've seen how she became the way she is now. It all connects in really in a cohesive way that it feels like that was the intent from the beginning.
Yep, I agree. And like you said, maybe it was, but if it's not, that's the fact that I don't know makes it good.
Exactly. Yeah.
So let's talk spoilers now, since we're in it. So the whole first season leads up to the one who remains, right? Kang, this version of Kang. And it's still very much about Kang, but it's actually really still more about the timeline than anything. Like, Kang's almost incidental in it, and I really enjoyed that because it feels, like you said, it feels like its own story. Like, the only time it actually feels like it belongs to the rest of the MCU, and apart from, like, Loki's passing references to, like, his invasion of New York or whatever, is really, like, at the very end where they're going through files, and they're like, oh, one of the variants showed up on 616, but they took care of it.
That was so cool.
Yeah, that was
I
great.
Love the 616 reference. Yeah.
You're almost like, oh, yeah, right. You are connected to everything else, because it's easy to forget how the whole story is structured, that, like, even the Loki that we witness isn't really the Loki that we watched through all of these movies, because that Loki's dead.
Right.
Right? This one is Loki up to Avengers, and then he's pulled. And I would assume he, like, learned the lessons along the way because he watched his variant, die. So I think that there's something. So I'm sorry, I'm a little all over the place, but Loki is traditionally branded as a villain, which is, in Marvel, whatever, right? Thor's the hero, Loki's the bad guy.
Sure.
Loki's not really a bad guy in Norse mythology. He's a trickster character, which is different than, like, you wouldn't call Bugs Bunny a bad guy, right? He's just
well, depends who you ask. Elmer Fudd might.
It depends who you ask, right? And so, like, in Norse mythology, Loki is not, like, evil. He's just out for his own ends, but those ends can be good or bad. Like, and I think the MCU does a pretty good job at that, at, like, fleshing that type of character out, like, up until his death in Infinity War. But I feel like Loki, the television show, does a really good job at kind of driving two things home. One, that he's a god, and two, that he is up for his own ends, but that doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means, like, like he has his own compass, but that own compass can be directed towards goodness if it so pleases him. And I think that's kind of where the story ends up, that he ends up in this self-sacrificial place. Yeah. He learns, he learns friendship and then learns compassion, and putting the greater good first, in a way that he didn't, when we first saw him, back in Thor, certainly, like, you see this totally different, like, they did an amazing and convincing job at turning this comic book villain into the hero of his own story. Absolutely. Well, I think what's fascinating, like you said, he, like, learns compassion, and there's that scene where he talks about, like, Thor getting banished from Asgard and coming back, and Loki thinking that him being completely changed was a weakness, right? That he, like, learned to care was a weakness, and obviously, like, he's, without saying it, he's like, all right, actually not, because that's exactly what happened to him. He's basically banished to a place that is not his own, and he is forced, and he, like, it's about the friends he made along the way. It in some ways, it mirrors Thor's story. But what I kind of like about that is that he still gets his throne, but in the way that, like, a person in power should get their throne, through sacrifice and the care of others. Because at the end of the day, he's not just a god; he's the god of all stories, which I really liked. Right? Like, he's it's not just it's not I rule over the TVA. It's not he doesn't even rule over the time stream. He is the caretaker of the time stream that sits on the throne. but it's not really a throne. It's a chair. It just looks like a throne because he's got his
Right.
little, his ram helmet on.
And they made plenty of references to him being seduced by a throne, right? So he
Mhm.
literally said that in one of the last 2 episodes. So like that imagery was there throughout, right?
Exactly.
And it sort of culminated
Mhm.
in the end there.
I just think but to take the throne, but to have the throne, but not to take the throne, right? Because that's
Yeah.
been Loki's thing, is to take things for himself as opposed to claim them for himself because that's what because that's what the need is. So he he says, I'm not, he says it in the season that he's like, I'm not interested in the throne anymore. But then for it to come back around and be like, it doesn't matter that you're interested in them. Greatness is thrust upon you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what his glorious purpose is.
Yes, exactly. That's his glorious purpose. It's not unlike Thor and Mjolnir in a way when he was unable to wield Mjolnir, right, in the first
Mhm.
movie. Like, it's not unlike that, where it's sort of, it wasn't until he no longer sought kingship and power for its own sake that he was rewarded with those things.
Mhm.
And that's sort of what Loki kind of learned the same, but instead of trying to by hook or by crook get the throne or be someone's be the, I don't know, be some kind of a royal figure, even if it's over the Chitauri. Instead of that, he becomes this benevolent king figure outside of time who is the caretaker, keeping everything moving, keeping everything together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really, I enjoyed. I think that's why the ending succeeds so well, because not only does it rewards the characters for their hard work, right? Where they pretty much all get what they want in the end in some form or fashion. Like Mobius gets to work at the TVA, which he actually does want, but he also gets to see what his life is otherwise. So they both get it, or Obi makes some friends, basically.
Yeah.
But is also known for the hard work that he's doing instead of being forgotten, right?
Right.
So that's, I guess, whereas Loki comes to understand goodness, so does the show reward those who worked for good, which is not always something that happens. And so, we talked about on our Captain Marvel or the Marvels review, that it's uninterested. The movie is uninterested in the fallout of things, even though that is actually part of the story. But you're just okay, you just reunite the sun and whatever, and then you go. And this one, I feel it's all about the consequences and how to fix those consequences, and it wasn't lost on me that this whole show is about time travel, which just and starting again, literally fresh starts. But that's what Loki's doing. He's getting a fresh start over again. And so, I think it just thematically and narratively all just really jived together really well.
Yeah, that's what I mean when I say that they did a really good job making it feel like if it was not a planned out sort of 2-season story to begin with, they did a really wonderful job tying things together and making the season in itself be self-contained. Each season is self-contained enough, obviously there's a connection from one to the next. But there are 2 distinct stories that are happening. And yet it is one overarching story when you put the pieces together. So it's, they did a really, really wonderful job. It's such a kind of a rare blend of of watchability and humor and heart and it actually says something. It actually has a point of view on like the importance of on the importance of like having something to live for, having people to care about and to motivate you to want to do something for them, to love the other and not just yourself.
Dare I say glorious purpose?
Glorious purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It has a point of view on that. It has a point of view on it at least explores questions about like taking away people's free will. You know, if you were to mess with the timeline in such and such a way, what does that do to people? Do people have a choice anymore, or are they just or are they free to choose? It at least does a cursory pass at that philosophical question, and explores it a bit, even if it doesn't have an answer, because no one's really answered that question in thousands of years.
Right.
So it does so much and services all of those things pretty well, I think.
I think so, especially for like the genre that it is, or like the venue that it's doing this thing. Like, you know, like it's at the end of the day, it's still the MCU, and it has to be accessible. So it doesn't, you know, it can go as far as it can go. But you know, I wouldn't expect, you know, I don't know, Arthur to make any grander statements about friendship than what the audience that it's aimed for. So I
exactly.
think for the audience it's aimed for, it is extraordinarily good at talking about these things. Even just I as you know, I enjoy when things are show don't tell. Like there's a lot of subtext of what's going on. So like there's a lot of time slipping in this season, and like having to go back and repeat steps and whatever else. And so in some ways it's kind of like a labyrinth.
Mm-hmm.
Or a maze, or just like a spiral. But like the design of the TVA, particularly in these new rooms that we were in, it's all spirals and circles and stuff. Like the big observation deck is a circle, and even like that really tiny hallway with all the filing cabinets that they like keep walking in, that's a circle or a half circle. Like everything is, they're always like wrapped by something, kind of like. And so I enjoyed, like, there's a claustrophobia to the TVA this season because of that, and there's like this maze-like quality for like what they're trying to accomplish versus how they're like keep getting offset, and so on and so on and so on from there. I liked that. I liked that choice, and when they weren't in the TVA, you almost like feel too open. Like it actually, I felt exposed for them, like the episode when they're in old-timey Chicago at the World's Fair and stuff. There's like that symbolism isn't there, and so it's like they're in danger because they're not closed in.
Right.
So there's like this weird like
exposed.
right. So like they're like protected by the enclosed TVA, but then they're also like stuck in it and like cycling back, and like all of that just was like really good. Like it's just,
layers.
Just so many, like an onion, you know? Like an onion. Yeah, there's so many well thought out things. And so...
so many good onions.
So many good onions.
Onions you might get on a Big Mac at McDonald's. Speaking of McDonald's, how about how they turned an actual McDonald's into what it would have looked like in the 80s?
Felt good, actually.
Yeah.
Like, truthfully, I like saw it and I was like, wow, I didn't realize that I missed that.
Yeah,
like those like hard plastic yellow chairs and the light old school menu board. And like I just like looking at it. Like nostalgia is a word that we throw around a lot, and I don't know if I have nostalgia for old McDonald's, but even just like it made me realize how sick I am of LCD menu screens.
See, I definitely noticed the menu board and felt a warmness for it. But I almost more so felt it for like the architecture itself not being like
the
like sort of brutalist, right angles and slate and that kind of thing, or on the outside, and then sort of just drab, I don't know, wood slats at like or whatever on the inside, like that look that is sort of just everywhere now because it's cheap to reproduce and is somewhat like in style. It's just it. Say what you will about the 80s and 90s, color palettes and everything else. There's a lot of brown and mustard yellow and stuff, but like it wasn't monotonous, at least. I don't know.
No, it's true. And I mean, like this like slate wood slatted style is not, it's pleasant in some ways to look at, but everything's cold. Like, there's almost like a hard distance between like the Happy Meal and the slate.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but like there isn't like, but I will gladly get a Happy Meal in the McDonald's with like a conservatory sunroom, and there's just something very pleasant about that. Even like Sylvie's bag was like nicely like folded with her food in it and stuff. And I don't know if that ever happened, but it was like this. It wasn't your like pre-crumpled brown bag or whatever I just, speaking of Sylvie, we're getting hung up on McDonald's, but was Sylvie underserved, or like do you think that she had enough to do? Does it matter if she had enough to do or not to do?
I did kind of feel like I wanted more of her this season, and I felt like she was very unmoving, and sort of like not open to being convinced, not open to hearing Loki out in a lot of ways. But then again, I also felt like there were times where it was sort of like, dude, just explain to her what's going on. Just explain it.
Yeah, that's how I always feel in those. Like, if you just said it out loud, then there wouldn't be an issue here.
You wouldn't have to try to. She wouldn't have to be like, well, you have to kill me 1,000 times. Like, if you would just sort of from the beginning explain what's happening here.
Yeah,
a little more succinctly or like directly. Like, this is what's happening. Just
I lost my. I think like her not listening to Loki was quite interesting because she is Loki, right?
Yes.
They're variants of one another. And how often do we actually listen to ourselves? Like we deny, especially, or even like, like when you meet somebody who is like you or share your personality traits in some way, and you're like, oh, I don't like that guy.
Sure.
Like I don't want to listen to anything that guy has to say. And even though like subconsciously you don't even realize that you don't want to listen because you recognize yourself in them too much.
Sure.
I think there's a bit of that with Sylvie going on. So I enjoyed her just, I don't know, her like when it comes to it, like they're both Loki, but like main Loki is seeking glorious purpose in some way, whether it's sacrificial or not, and Sylvie is seeking purpose, with that, in that it quite opposite, but she's like doesn't want the glorious part is left out of it. Like
she wants an ordinary life,
which you would argue is not glorious, right?
Right.
And so like it's quite opposite for the Loki who is sitting on a golden throne, quite in some ways literally. Like he rebirthed Yggdrasil, the world tree, right? He is the new not High Father, that's DC. What do you call Odin?
All Father.
All Father, thank you. Like that's him now. That's it. Like he did it. It's all like he is that person. And so especially with the tree, like it's not just like Yggdrasil. In some ways, it's bigger. Yggdrasil is 9 realms, but this new one is all realms across the multiverse, every single one. And so he is the All Father of stories of the multiverse, and Sylvie is Sylvie. And even though they're both Loki, it's just so fun to see their juxtaposition of character. I guess that's just really smart. It's just like really well thought out.
It really is. It really, really is. I really, really enjoyed it. Do you think this is the end of Tom Hiddleston as Loki?
No, I think that there's a multiversal war,
Yeah,
secret war thingy coming. So, like, he might not be a main character anymore, but I would be highly surprised if he was done. He, like, I think Chris Hemsworth are just like, yeah. Or not even Chris Hemsworth, Sam Jackson. I think they're just like, yeah, why not? Like, I'll do another one.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah.
I feel like for Sam Jackson, he's just like, I like the genre and I'm having fun and it's a paycheck. So, like, why the heck not? Like, I mean, when they called him to, like, in the early 2000s, like, can we use your likeness for the Ultimates? He was like, yeah, that's super fun. So, like, I feel like for Tom Hiddleston, Loki is one of the most well-rounded characters in the MCU. Like, apart from Tony Stark, maybe, like, he doesn't, like, they're the guys that have the most fleshed out stories.
Yes.
And so if his story, like, if he still has a place to explore that isn't forced, then yeah, why not? Right.
I'm totally with you. I'm all behind it if he wants to keep doing it. I had a real feeling of, like, if this is where his story were to end, I'd be satisfied. Like, that's a good
completely
ending place, for him to sort of, like, that last shot of him is sort of a great last memory of that character to have, right? But I agree with you. I do think that there's a multiverse out there. He'll come back because he just because it's fun. The same as I think we'll see, Robert Downey Jr. again in some multiversal context at some point.
It's possible.
I think that at some point we'll see them all again, but maybe it would be wise to take some time and let us miss them, and then have them come back in some, or even if it's just for a cameo. But yeah, I think we'll see him again, even though. But that was a nice ending, regardless, for this version of him.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's a nice ending for the episode as well, Frank.
I think so.
Tell people where they can find us.
If you want to head on over to the TV, if you want to head over to beerwithgeeks.com, you can find all of our nearly 500 episodes and show notes and everything else. It's a great search feature. You can find whatever episode you're looking for. I actually kind of use it a lot. I'm going to probably look up our Loki season 1 review after this. But you can go to beerwithgeeks.com. You can go to anywhere you find your podcast. You can subscribe. You can leave a rating or review. And you can head on over to patreon.com/thoughtbubbleaudio if you want to help us out with $1 or $2 to help us pay for the cost of making a podcast.
What does it cost to make a podcast these days, Frank?
Money.
Cost money. Frank, it was a pleasure to talk to you as always. So until next time, cheers.
Cheers.